Hey, what's up, everybody? Guess what time it is? It's the Snow Globe back here again with another episode. Today I have two of my favorite people on the planet. They're so amazing. They are super talented photographers, videographers. They have their own company. They're out all the way in the NYC, keeping it safe in this COVID frenzy. I thought I'd sit down with them and talk about language. Yes, indeed, we are talking about the evolution of language. Obviously, we're going to be talking about like American perspective on English and just the funny things that we deal with when it comes to that, and play a few games. So hope you guys enjoy. These are my two friends, James and Jennifer.
But yeah, so I guess let's get started. So you guys know that the English language is kind of like, I guess, derived from German or Germanic languages or Vikings and stuff, which is already really weird. I guess words like sky and I forget the other Viking words, but
Hound.
yeah. Hound, the German. I think those are German words.
Perch, and stuff like that.
It's super weird that we even speak languages like our language is that. Like, do you remember when you were like a baby or like a toddler when you knew you were speaking something? Like, do you remember when you were learning English, what that was like?
It's weird. It just seems like I automatically just spoke English.
Just like popped out. I was like, hi guys. Hello.
Like, I remember learning words, and I remember learning a little bit of Spanish, but that one didn't stick because I wasn't practicing as much. So
Me, I don't remember not knowing how to speak English. I think I just kind of like came out the womb, just
Hey guys.
hello.
I have arrived.
I have arrived.
Totally. Yeah.
But, I think as a kid, I can just remember like reading the dictionary as a kid because I've always had like a fascination with like words
Mhm.
and more so like the concepts behind words and just trying to connect words and whatnot. Yeah, so that's just kind of my thing. Like living, also like having like moved around as a military kid, I started to notice that the way like people speak up north, the way they syntax their words, like the cadence in which they speak, is very different than North Carolina.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Yeah.
Southern draws, or in the north they enunciate like their consonants very hard.
In the South, they like make all the words together.
Yeah, it's everything's together.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, how can I say? I forgot the word. I think it's glotticized or something like that. Like where
You teach me. I'm not sure that word before.
it's like the way in which you use your mouth and your tongue to enunciate words.
Okay. Okay.
And so like in the north, they enunciate very like clearly, and it comes off kind of aggressive.
Like,
to like Southerners, it comes off
like what? Like, give us an example.
okay. So like the other day, ironically, Jen and I were talking about chocolate, right?
Okay.
Because well,
Do I want to know why you were talking about chocolate?
maybe we were talking about chocolate and how to enunciate it, and I was like, it's chocolate. She was like, it's chocolate, and I'm like, it's not chalk like writing chalk. It's chocolate.
It's chocolate.
But no matter how hard she tried to say it, she just kept saying chocolate.
Yeah.
It was irritating me. She's like, no one says chocolate. Like, no one says it like that.
It's not.
Like, that's literally what it is, though.
It's not chocolate. Like, yo, give me a piece of
You
chocolate.
see, do you see how she sounds like Gilbert Gottfried
It's
when
not
she says
that.
it?
Chocolate. It's chocolate.
It's not chocolate.
Like chocolate.
So basically, we had this like hour-long debate about vowel sounds and how.
But then we talked about the Spanish language and how they pronounce it,
Yeah, like chocolate and stuff like that.
So
So
that
it's like,
kind of adds to
right.
Yeah.
So that adds to how she says it. But then there's me, where it's like,
the O sounds like the A.
well,
Chocolate.
yeah. But we were talking about how in the South, like they abbreviate words.
Yeah.
And, like they shorten things. So it's like, even though it's chocolate, we just say chocolate. like 2 syllables. So it's
Right.
like,
Yeah, like it doesn't have as many syllables as it does.
right.
Chocolate.
And it's just like over time, you abbreviate enough words and you go to another region, no one knows what the hell you're talking about.
Exactly. And I think that's why a lot of people I know who are like, English isn't their first language, they're like, this is a tricky language because there aren't really any set rules. It's like,
No, this is American. We speak American. This isn't English. This is American.
speaking, yeah, shorthand, we just shorthand everything. And so you can imagine over maybe like 100 years, every 100 years or so, the language just taking on new words, adapting words from other languages. I think we've adapted some from Spanish too. Like, I can't remember. Doesn't matter. The point is, we adopt words from other languages sometimes too, and that adds to our vocabularies. We shorthand
Latin.
Yeah, Latin,
Latin, yeah.
French, some Hebrew words, but a lot of Latin words, especially in like the science community.
Yeah.
Like there's just, you know, the Latin terms for things that we say. It's like, oh, that's a Tyrannosaurus Rex. It's like, that's a T-Rex. You know what I mean? So like, it's not that deep, bro. So,
Right. Okay, Mr. Know-it-all. Yeah,
right,
exactly. Yeah, shorthanding is like just a part of our culture, I think, but
right.
part of everybody's culture. I don't know. Speaking of which, shorthand stuff, that has kind of translated in the way we text, I think.
Right.
And I think it's very hilarious, like the types of shorthand text and the kinds of
Do you think it's because we do things because of convenience?
that seems natural for like, and this is my opinion, I'm not an expert. It seems very natural for like humans to find the easiest way or means of like surviving, no matter what that is, even if that's just communication or just trying to like get by, even work ethic. I mean, I guess it depends on your personality, but still.
Right.
To paint a picture, if you think about yourself,
Right.
how do you try to get around to do things efficiently?
Right.
Shorthand stuff. So
Right.
I want to play a little game with you guys. I want to see if you can name the shorthand acronym. You probably know a few already, like LOL.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody? What does that mean?
Laugh out loud.
Yeah. You guys got it. Okay. What about BRB?
Be right back.
Be right back.
Bring your own beer. No, I'm just kidding. The whole message can be changed. But I'm gonna give you 3. Let's see if you guys can figure them out. Okay. All right. I'm gonna give you a real hard one. Just come out the door running. Ready?
Ready.
Okay. IIRC.
What the heck?
I'll use it in a sentence. I'll use it in a sentence. So
Is it really clear?
isn't it really?
Oh, that's a good one.
That's a really good one, actually. I could see somebody using that. All right, you ready? If I remember correctly.
See, who talks like that? Who talks that way? Who talks like that way, bro?
Yeah, English accent.
Somebody with an English accent. No, but that's a shorthand, right? Like,
wow.
you know how quick that text message could go?
Wow. I'm like, what coding language is this one?
Proper English? I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna give you another one. Okay, IMO.
In my opinion.
In my opinion.
Right on. Smack dab in the middle. Got it. Names. I should do like a little ping thing. Like,
Right.
one for James. Come on, Jennifer. Come on, Jennifer.
I got BRB.
That's true, but that was a throwaway. All right. Let's do another one. Okay. What about HTH?
Head to head.
Close.
Hand
Hand to head.
heart to heart.
No, it did. No. I'm trying to think of a sentence. It'd be like, just finished mowing the lawn, comma, HTH.
How the hell?
How the hell? Yeah. Not just mow the lawn. How the hell? No. That's good, though. It's actually here to help.
Would have never guessed that.
No.
I think that probably wasn't a good sentence. But yeah, here to help.
That's crazy that there's a whole text language.
There's like so many.
10 phrases.
So many. Okay, one last one. I know you guys can get this. TBT.
Throwback Thursday?
Ding!
Okay.
James is up with this texting language. Texting language. But yeah, shorthands are amazing.
Do you think the shorthands came from when smartphones started coming out? They had the little swipe text, so you don't have to spell the whole word out.
Ooh,
You know how we used to just like swipe up to the left, to the right, and then all of a sudden it created a whole. So maybe we just like internalized it.
No, you know what I think it was? What made shorthand super easy? It was when before we could type individual letters, it was like you had like the 3 number pad. Yeah.
right.
It was like, I don't have all this much time.
Right.
About
you have to like scroll through each individual key. Oh my goodness.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
But the speeding up of language though. So it's like I think people were, I guess, more concise with what they had to say because it's like, fam, if
shorten it.
No one had time to send long text messages.
Yeah. I think another part of it is our like reduced attention span too, for sure.
Right.
Just get to the point.
Right.
Yeah, like tell me exactly what I need to know and then move on. And that probably goes back to telegraphs too. Like, can you imagine like you can only send a letter and it take like days or months to reach the other person? Like,
SOS.
SOS. Right.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh, it's like the British are coming.
Yeah.
It's like 3-month horse riding like this one.
Important to know. So.
Right.
Yes. Oh my goodness. American history would have been so fun if I knew what I knew now.
Right.
If I knew then what I knew now.
Remember when teachers told us that would be like the downfall of language?
Texting.
Yeah. If they only knew memes were gonna be a thing.
Right.
Dude, they said it was gonna be a downfall of language? Come on.
Yeah.
I feel like it's elevated language.
I agree. I think it's elevated communication.
Yeah.
For all languages, because everyone kind of knows.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can recognize it, the characters, and stuff, even if you don't know the language.
Emojis. Think of what emojis have done for culture.
Mm-hmm.
Goodness, emojis say so much, in my opinion, about your personality. Like, I'm like, okay, if you're gonna use that poop emoji one more time, and not be friends. I seriously thought it was like a chocolate chop, like a little chocolate.
I'm crying.
It's so friendly. Like, he's so nice.
He looks so happy. He looks happy. So. Yeah.
Oh my god.
At least have like some steaming things and like flies buzzing around.
I want, and then the little chocolate instead of saying this, like, want to poop? What?
There's chocolate all over the bathroom. I'm crying. It tasted like chocolate.
Oh no.
Oh god.
Now I'm just picturing Jennifer with chocolate.
Right, exactly. Look, we don't serve chocolates here.
But we got chocolate.
Speak
Chocolate.
Western English.
Yeah, my favorite are the memes when people like misuse the abbreviated stuff. Like, I don't know if I gave it to you guys, but here, let me read this meme to you. The meme is, there's this mom and her kid. Kid's name's David. Doesn't really matter, but the mom's like, your great aunt just passed away, LOL. And the kid's like, why is that funny? The mom's like, it's not funny, David. What do you mean? And David's like, Mom, what do you think LOL means? And the mom's like, Mom, LOL means laughing out loud. And she's like, oh my gosh, I gotta send everyone I thought of and give them a call. She thought it meant lots of love.
Oh my god.
That's like, that's not just like that's like news. And you're just like,
right.
LOL.
Right.
So funny. Oh my
Or
god.
like even like punctuation.
Punctuation is everything.
It'll change the whole message, man.
Yeah. I have a habit of putting like exclamation points after everything I say.
Mm-hmm.
So people probably think I'm like yelling it, but I'm not.
So what is it in your head though? Like when you're like texting it, you know, you're like, thank you.
Right.
So now when people put like if you say something like, hey, can you hey James, can you take the trash out? And he's like, okay, period. You think like that's something evil, like, oh, he's mad or something like
It's
that.
like, no.
It's just like, okay.
Ending the proper sentence.
The
Correct.
proper sentence.
Grammar.
Right. So, like,
Correct.
so periods are now kind of like a
Yeah, like it's coming off as if you come off like really curt or
Oh.
people.
That's what.
Like no dot.
Yeah, I could see
Excuse
that.
me. Well, I'm sorry. Right.
If they do an exclamation point, it'd be like, yeah, I would think yelling.
or people
Or
talk
all
about-
caps.
Yeah.
All caps is hilarious though.
Especially when it's like something like super minor. Did you take out the trash today? It's like, why are you yelling? But it's like literally just text.
Yeah.
It's
Just
just
like
text.
how they text. Is there any like habits you have text-wise that you think are unique to you? Mine are no punctuation, actually.
No.
I know it's not that unique, but
Broken sentences. So I'll type like, and I had the same issue just writing, like in my composition and rhetoric class. I would write run-on sentences or I would write incomplete sentences. So like, hey, enter, outside, enter, wanna, enter, come outside, enter.
So you
like,
get
if
like
read,
50 texts.
and if you don't read it right then and there, it's just like, what the heck happened? And then it's like, send help, enter, never mind, figured it out, enter.
So my phone is like blowing up, but then he's just saying one sentence.
Right. Like, don't read it all together.
Right.
Look at the times.
look at the time. Context.
I think for me, it takes me a minute to respond. Like I don't respond all the time. Like just to James's.
There's like an hour delay between.
And it'll be like dot, and it'll just stay on that forever. And then it'll be like, happy face. It's like, okay.
It takes like an hour of like typing now. Jennifer's typing now.
So it's that, and I use
Did you program this into the phone and then send it?
It's because you're looking for the right emoji, right?
Right.
But I will say, when it comes to emails, completely different. Like my emails, like the tone in my emails is like, man, I would hate to receive an email from myself. Like this just sounds very like in your face.
Waving the finger around.
Right.
When do you guys send, like, what kind of emails? Do you send emails to, like, family members and stuff? I, like, never send emails unless they're, like, business.
No.
I usually send emails to, like, clients and stuff like that, so just going back and forth. I haven't sent, like, an email to a family member in a long time.
I've never sent an email to a family member.
Yeah.
And my family, like my mom just learned how to text like last year, so that's been interesting. So like she's like learning how to like send memes, and I'm just like, who taught you memes? Like who taught you memes?
Right.
Who gave you it?
I have a parent the same way. She does the little bit emoji thing, like little mini you, and she's like, "How was your day?" Why is your character doing somersaults? Do you actually do those?
Oh my god.
Yeah, my mom does the same thing.
Yeah, she does.
That's awesome.
It's a cute puppy. I'm like, it's like 30 megabytes, man.
Right. Gotta
Kill
delete
my
this.
data right now. And these on my phone.
Bro, that's so funny. Moms are the best though. They give you extra.
So do you prefer text or do you think you're more,
What, a phone call?
well, not even just a phone call. Do you prefer like text or do you prefer verbal communication?
Ooh, it just depends on what we're talking about. I think if I were making plans, I prefer verbal. Like, oh, we're doing this. Oh, we're doing that. Okay. Oh, well, I got to think about it because of this. Like, if that's in a text, because when I get a text, it's like, hey, we're meeting at 7 o'clock at the cafe at Sunset Street. I'm just like, okay, I'm going. I'm making all my plans toward it. But if you're like, oh, well, maybe not. Well, maybe we'll go somewhere else. I'm like, pick something now.
Yeah.
Oh, come up in that phone. What is the plan already? Like, so I think it just depends. If it's like real time, like trying to make a plan now, I would prefer communicate. But if you're like, it's like there's no rush for the answer. Like, hey, if you turn the dishwasher on, you don't have to give it to me right away. You know
Right,
what I mean? Like, don't call me. They're like, oh, just letting you know that I turned it on. Like,
Right.
thanks, bye.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what about you guys? Are you guys the face-to-face kind, or you like the quick text?
I think, yeah, when it comes to plans, I think, yeah, just verbal, like, all right, are we going to meet there or are we not going to meet there?
Right.
Are
Like,
you close? Did you leave your house? Because you said 7, and it's already 7:05. But I think I became more of a text person. Like, sometimes, like, I'll get, like, now I might not respond first, but I'll read it. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of like, I can do 2 things at once.
yeah, you like having the info on hand, but
Yeah.
Clients have made me get everything in writing, so I can
Yes.
hold it to them.
Yes.
oh, that's so important with like.
So that translates into like friendships, where it's like, yo, you
Mhm.
said 7:30 right here.
Yeah.
Right.
Use it as evidence.
Why do you hate me? It is 7:13, bro. You said.
Yeah, it's really just like covering like what.
Like, text just makes everything so final.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does definitely. There's like an intention about it. You're not putting it down unless you mean it. There's
Right.
like frivolousness about text messages. Like, yeah,
Like, you gotta like really think about it because you're typing it. You know what I mean? But when you're just saying stuff, you're just blabbing it out. I know I do. I do.
Blabbing.
Yeah.
Blabbing. Where did that come from?
oh my gosh. Oh, this gets into my little my theories and conversations about English sayings versus like British sayings, and I think blabbing is a British saying. I have to go to this. So I wanted to see if you guys also knew anything about these little sayings that are actually, some are from the English language and then some are sayings from British.
Mhm.
You can guess a few of them. So let's see. Do you guys know what the meaning of once in a blue moon means?
Not often. Like
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
so often. Almost never.
So infrequent. Basically never.
Right.
That's like a thing we say. Like, if you think about what you're saying, once in a blue, what is a blue moon? Like,
Right.
Mhm.
And why is it in a blue moon and not during a blue moon?
right. Like in a blue moon, like when the moon is blue, like it's like such a weird saying to me. So that's like an old English saying. It doesn't even have a background there. I thought it did, but
Right.
my little resources are failing. But do you guys know what I'm knackered means?
Knackered?
Yeah, that people
Is
use.
it like the person is tired?
Irritated?
Like irritated?
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, I'm tired.
I was
I'm knackered.
gonna say you're tired of talking.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm knackering around. Yeah, that's like even a weirder phrase, but that's like, I guess, a British one.
Even how they use mad versus how we use mad. It's like, are you mad? And it's like, no.
It means something different.
Like, are you crazy?
Right.
Are you crazy?
I guess the equivalent would be like, are you mental?
Right.
Is that like super 2000 though?
Right.
But the North uses mad.
Right.
The North uses.
But we use mad for like, oh, that was mad dope. And it's like, there's so much in there that you got to break down. It's like, okay, that was crazy dope. It's like, okay, well, why is it crazy? Like, it's not, nothing's literal.
Yeah.
No, yeah, you just like
Everything's implied.
You really just need the context there. I seriously would feel bad for somebody who's like, what does it mean when he says, this is, you're like, there's no real meaning, you just use it the way you
Right.
My favorite are like the slang things that are kind of new, at least they're new like in the last decade. Words like turn up and like bay. Bay, like, how old is bay? Is that like a new one or?
I think people have used it since like the 90s, but I think it just really just went through the roof in like the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I watched a video and this girl was trying to break down like what she thought bay meant. She said bye, and
because babe was like too long.
I know.
Take the
This babe was too long.
Take the B out. I'm like, oh, I see what you did there. I got you.
That could have honestly been how it like started. The
And
new
then some
one
kid told me like it meant before all else, and I'm like, no, not
which one is it?
They said it meant before all else, and I'm like,
Right.
no.
No.
No, I will not accept.
Like, when would you ever use that? Like, you know how these are shorthand words, so it's like technically you could replace them and put them in a sentence and like make them long.
Mm-hmm.
You are my bae. You are my before all else. That doesn't even make sense.
Das Bay.
Das bae. It's a whole new German word. That's hilarious. Which I made a list because it was like so random. It was like swerve.
Swerve.
Mm.
Have you heard that one?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? Swerve?
So swerve comes from like stay in your lane,
Okay.
which is a derivative of if we're all going somewhere, don't swerve into my lane, which
Oh,
means
I get it.
mind your own business.
Yeah.
Like that correlation is like so.
What the heck came up with that?
He's like, what?
You're like, okay then.
So you knew it had to have come from a New Yorker.
Right. You guys. You got words.
I was thinking, even before this, I was like rapping a rap lyric, and the guy was like, "I'm gonna jack him for his legs." I'm like, "Jack? Where does Jack come from?" And it's like, "Oh, hijack. Oh, he's going to take possession of his Rolex. Oh."
There has to be some scholar like recording these down. Oh, swerve is a derivative of staying your lane.
Right.
Oh, now
Here's
we
how
have
I'm using the sentence.
Urban Dictionary.
Right.
Urban Dictionary is
That's
it?
true. I forget about that. Yeah, that's one of those tools out there. But I do enjoy these words like squad goals. My favorite.
Yeah.
Squad. Yeah.
And then you have to wonder, do I have a squad?
Right. It's my squad.
And do we have goals? Like, does our squad in fact have goals? And what are our milestones and SWOT analysis?
That's the word that'll make you think about your life.
Right.
Think about your life choices.
Like sometimes we just say things and then we're just like, I actually don't mean that at all.
Right. Shade's a good one too. I like that.
I like shade.
Casting shade. That one actually literally could mean like casting darkness or something like that. That makes sense.
Casting is such a good word.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but sometimes like if you've ever listened to like 13-year-old like their conversations, there are words being tossed around like I'm like, do they know what they're saying? Or
Right.
one who doesn't know what they're saying.
Right.
It's like speaking in code.
You're like, translation, oh my gosh.
Right.
Sus. I'm like, why don't you just say suspect? Suspect is already the slang.
Now, sus is really interesting because that's being switched for like cis now.
Really?
Certain communities with
Okay.
sus. And it's like, okay. And then other people's like suspect.
Right. Okay, I get it. So it's being used for two different meanings.
Yep. Yep. Whatever community that you are a part of, I guess. They just change the meaning of things.
Mm-hmm.
All these words are going to be
So words are fluid. Language is fluid.
Yeah, it's totally fluid.
Some people own their words differently. Like something that could be like negative, they're gonna like, well, I'm making it to a positive.
Right.
Yeah, you could reinvent a reinvention.
Right. I'm remixing it.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that what you do? Is that what
I'm backing it. I'm taking possession and laying siege to your language. And making it, I'm repatriating.
Repatriating.
No, you know who does that though? T.I. And I love it. T.I. does it and I love it so much. He'll say like, I need my money expeditiously. And then somebody will translate it on Twitter to like the slang version of what he's saying. It's like, okay. So that's where, when it comes to like linguists, I think rap and linguistics go hand in hand because
for sure.
Language is so fluid and songwriters. So
yeah, everything is used in such a like dynamic and creative way that you're like, wait a minute, okay, I got to think about how that was used there because it's like so edgy and like.
Right.
what did I just hear? I like the ones where it's like, I like to call it like word love. Like,
Right,
yeah,
right.
like, ooh, that was like a beautiful way of saying that. Like, I
Right, right,
that was sung so much. I'm like, ooh, you said it like that. I love it.
right.
Yeah.
Oh, another cool thing is so Jen and I were talking about the context and switch between like English and Spanish.
Yeah.
So like in English we'll say my name is James, and in
Yeah.
Spanish will be like me llamo Jaime or whatever. But me llamo doesn't mean my name is; it means I am called. And I'm like, that's such a better way of saying that.
Right.
Like, that sounds so dignified. Like
I am
I'm not James, but this is what they call me. So
Yeah.
Right?
That's always really fascinating. Like literal translations of other ways of saying things, like fantastic. Yeah, I think German is like that too. It's got like the verb is at the end of the sentence instead of like the second thing in the sentence. Speaking of which, so I guess the U.S. doesn't have like a language, like a designated. This is the language of the country.
Mhm.
nah.
What do you think it should be? Should it be one, or should it always be just kind of this unknown? I know Spanish is like prevalent, and I'm assuming it's because we're near Latin American countries.
Mhm.
Ow. Keep your hands to yourself.
Where did owl come from? Where did owl come from? Like, why do we say owl instead of like, ugh?
Or ouch.
Ooey. I don't
Right.
Is it because we can phonetically sound it out, or
Mm.
I'm just trying to think of like,
Well, there was there was languages here already,
yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
just a blend.
Yeah, it's just a blend because of how people have come here, and then how people have integrated, and how communities have blended.
Right. Everybody's gonna have their own flavor of how they're saying stuff.
In the Northwest, I imagine their concept of nature is super different than someone who grows up in the Northeast, where it's like, okay, you guys are used to seeing trees and
Right.
parks,
Right.
and for us, or alleys, it's like alley means nothing to me if I live in Colorado.
Right. Might not even have a word for it. Like
Right.
languages in that case, but yeah. That always like is very exciting. Like people are like,
So
oh
how much does environment
Play on your
shape
words.
language?
Mhm.
yeah, we're always trying to find ways of describing the world around us because things are always changing.
Mhm.
So we're coming up with new words to describe what things are around us and stuff.
I like pirate language.
And the meaning of the word changes every time it gets converted to that language.
Right.
So, like, an example, but like if we were reading the Bible,
Mhm.
and in the Bible we were looking at the Hebrew word,
Mhm.
and then the way it was
Translated.
translated,
Mhm.
yeah, it just changes the entire.
So it's like, it'll be like, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and then you move on a couple of verses, and it's like, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. But the Hebrew word for waters is deep, the deep, and it's like interesting. That's like
It just
really
changes.
interesting. It makes it more immersive, so to speak, like more poetic.
Right.
Hover was like something else.
Yeah, hover was like,
When it said the spirit hovered, it was like breath.
yeah, like wind.
Like
So
wind.
yeah, the word for hover was wind.
Wow. Yeah. And it's like
I think the spirit was like breath, wind.
Yeah.
Because they'll have the
But
same word, but different way of spelling it.
Mhm.
And the different way of spelling it makes it feminine or makes it masculine.
Right. So the word used for the spirit was feminine. So I'm like, okay, so let's play with the idea that the nature of the Holy Spirit has a feminine-like character. And then the word for the Holy Spirit translates to literally helper and comforter.
gotcha.
You have God in the beginning, and the word for God was, I think it was El. And Elohim is the plural version of the Godhead. And then, so that would be like the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit. But it's like if you have El, which is masculine,
Yeah.
and then you have the Holy Spirit, which is feminine, and the Holy Spirit is the comforter, the helper. And it's like, let us make man in our image. It's like, okay, people always teach that God made him in my image. It's like, but it says us, literally.
Yeah.
So if it says us,
Yeah.
what is that denoting?
Right. There's
And
like
the spirit was feminine, so it's kind of like there's a bunch of
There's a
play on
lot
words.
at play here that goes missing.
one word, right?
Right.
Mhm.
So then it's like when God is like, let us make man in our image, and he created man and woman.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like
Clearly.
So yeah, the translation of the words.
That's
The
awesome
translation.
though. I love that breakdown.
Yeah, so that was like really interesting. So it's like, we learn it in the English language, but if you read it in the context from which it comes from, because it's like there's Hebrew, Greek, and they all have there's like 4 different words for land. It's like, do you mean land or no, world? So it's like land, earth as a planet, the world as a society, like all of these are different things.
Yeah.
And we're just like earth. You know what I mean?
Right. It's like that covers like so many different things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, context is like it's the same as like having like salt with your steak. Like it's just a needed thing.
Right.
Right.
Like when people go, now we go like, I'm dead. Oh my God, he's dead. He's dead.
Put a skull emoji.
Put on he died laughing.
Yeah, I've used that before plenty of times. Like, what? That's
In
just
corn.
like I'm like laughing, right? That is so funny.
But even hysterical, right? So like Jen and I were doing research on the term hysterical, and that came through the 1920s where women were like, and like fainting from like depression and stuff like that. Like that's where hysterics came from. I'm like,
You do that one more time.
That was in James Simmons' voice.
Dun, dun, dun. Dramatic music. But we don't think of it that in that context anymore. Because who faints? Who faints anymore?
Right.
Yeah, unless you like have a medical issue, like
Right.
Right.
At which point we're just not gonna be like, he died laughing.
Right.
Like that was hysterical.
Yeah.
in that case, we'd say I'm dead.
Right, exactly.
Just like trying to imagine like a valedictorian college speech and be like, guys, and I'm dead. So
Right.
the crowd is like, oh,
Bravo.
great use of the English language. Give him a job.
You're the apple of my eye.
Right. Where did that come from? Like, it's like these old sayings. Still like, what, 2 birds, 1 stone?
We were talking about that. Like, who's killing birds with one?
I always get it wrong.
Just like, I'm going to kill 2 stones with 1 bird.
I'm going to kill 2. Close.
Right. That visual though.
Visual.
I'm dead.
Use them in a sentence. Die Hard. Okay, here's one. Die Hard. While it typically refers to someone with a strong dedication to a particular set of beliefs, the term die hard originally had a series of much literal meanings. Of course it did, because anything before our time was just brutal and just terrible. In the earliest incarnation in the 1700s, the expression described condemned men who struggled the longest when they were executed by hanging. Well
then.
awkward.
That changes that movie.
That just took it somewhere I did not expect. Any more fun ones? By and large, Yeah, I've heard that before. Just for listening, it is kill two birds with one stone.
One bird.
So funny. You just say it wrong all the time. Now it's right. Just that's how it works.
I think I had a funny incident where, like, I like sneakers. Like, I like to collect sneakers and whatnot.
Awesome.
So I had a trip to England, and this lady was like, "Oh, I like your trainers." I was like, "Trainers?
That's like an old English.
Sneakers?" She's like, "Oh, do they help you sneak?" And I was like, "Well then."
Well played.
Interesting conversation.
James like, how do you know I'm sneaking?
I guess they could help you sneak if you really thought about it.
Like, when I thought about it, I'm like, why did they call them sneakers? And I was like, maybe because before we had those, they had like really hard shoes, and it makes it very difficult to sneak up on people. So these are like quiet shoes.
And then people call tennis shoes.
But literally, we wear them everywhere, except playing tennis in them.
When do you need to sneak?
Good point. When's the last time you snuck? We should call them creepers from now on.
Creepers.
I gotta go get some new creepers.
The branding for that will be insane.
It's just a man like.
Yeah, just.
But yeah, language is evolving. We're always shorthanding everything and doing things in different flavors across the board. I just wonder, like, those languages that are a little, like, obsolete, even, like, Latin, the dead language, like, if they ever had slang. Like, I'm trying to think of a Latin word, like, Levitic. Is that actually, I don't know. It's a Latin word. Joel knows. We'll pick it up in the next show. He'll break down the science of it. Right now, I'm like, oh, what does that mean again?
Oh, carpe diem.
Carpe diem, yeah. Like, is that how you say it? Carpe, or is it carpe?
I don't know. We just say it that way, though.
You're right.
I have no idea.
Wow.
Or per diem.
Per diem. I'm trying to remember what per diem means.
Per day.
Per day.
I don't know.
Seize the day. You're like, I don't know. That's it, guys. That's it. I just wanted to chit chat about how we talk about stuff.
Yo, thank you for having us.
I didn't even set it up right. I'm like, yeah, that's it. Okay, bye.
We're done. Hit that like button. Subscribe now.
Exactly, the plug. So thank you guys, of course, for spending your time with me and talking through these funky little things that I came up with. But yeah, if you guys want to follow James or Jen online for any of their projects that they're doing, or to ask some questions about their businesses, follow them at
James, James, Simsiv.
And Jennifer Gray Sword on Instagram.
Yep, hit them up, blow them up. Don't blow them up, just like blow them
See?
up.
See? Just like that. Murdered.
Don't take it.
Blow them up with the love you can possibly muster. So, but yeah.
Yes. Chocolate, please. Good night.
With chocolate, preferably with chocolate.
Chocolate emoji.
Chocolate emoji. Good.
Want to thank you guys once again for tuning in to the episode. Remember, you can reach out to us whenever you feel like it on Twitter at the Snow Globe Pod or on Instagram at the Snow Globe Podcast. Be sure to tune in every other Friday for a new episode on the Snow Globe, and I will see you then.